expands over and over against your shoe can create serious and painful hot spots and irritations. The longer you ride, the worse it can become. This makes for a level of never-before-experienced comfort in the highest-performing cycling footwear. Every cyclist rides for that special feeling that cycling brings to us. Each one of us has our own version of what it means to enjoy the ride. We just help make it possible.
This is the Women's Elite Finale, CVR World Cup LA. So exciting. Here are your final results for this women's. In first place, Carrie Conaber. Carrie Conaber off the front, more watts than anybody else. You've got to be kidding me. Carrie Conaber, then Beth York, then Jennifer Reel, and oh my goodness, we are going to see a shakeup. In second, Claudia Behring. Unbelievable that this is happening. She's coming up over the top of the group right here. Meisel's trying to close the gap, but now it doesn't look like she's going to do it. Gets out, puts down 400 watts, comes across that line first. Third, Beth York. That may be the surprise of the day. Not surprise in her ability, but managed to stay close enough to the front that her big sprint at the end, and took those points away from Claudia in the previous one in that sprint as well. You know what? Beth is a lot of things, but I didn't know she was a sprinter. And Beth York comes around her, knocks her back, and look at that. Hugs all around. Those of you who are watching on the interwebs, my goodness, you have just been inaugurated. Baptized, in a sense, into what virtual cycling is all about. The hardest video game ever.
Holy smokes! I'm like exhausted just watching this thing. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible, Chris. That finish was unbelievable.
You need to turn off your audio.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Chris Haskell. I'm here with Frank Garcia, but he's not allowed to come just yet. This is my spot of the show where I tell you about all the exciting things that are going to happen. Hello, Mixer. Hello, Facebook. Hello, MySpace, maybe? I don't know. But everybody is watching it from something different, it seems. But this is the week. This is week 8 of the 8-week regular season CVR World Cup season. Now, this is going to be the one where we decide who is going to go from this zone, Zone F, to Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, check this out. This is the course that we're going to be racing today, and it is a really exciting one. London Classic. It's 43.7 unbelievably fast kilometers, and those are going to tick away surprisingly fast because there's almost no uphill. 132 meters total. One small little punchy climb where exciting things will happen. 7 total laps around virtual London, past virtual Big Ben, past whatever that statue was we just saw, and up this hill to the bitter, bitter end. And there are 2 men who have their sights set on Zone F and taking this championship away. They are Kai Barrett, the unbelievably fast sprinter who's come out with some miraculous finishes, some unbelievable watts. And this man, Greg Leo, you're going to see costumes on this man. Dr. Greg Leo, he's a colleague, at least I have to call him such in economics. But he's also a guy who knows game theory. This lady, Carrie Conaber, has already been the one we have seen in these past events, and we're going to tell you her story. But the one who is set to win this one, former professional rider Vicky Whitelaw. But there are some riders who want to take it away from her, and this Zone F looks to be fantastic. Here's the way things already look right now. Greg Leo sitting in that first position by just a couple of points over Kai Barrett. Frank Deal knocking at the door, would like to upset the apple cart, or in this case, the, I don't know, Godzilla cart, and knock him out of this one. Matthew Brandt as well. On the men's B side, this is the B side of the record, the cool side. Marty Pekelny is leading that with Steve Smith in a close second. Those are the men that you need to pay close attention to. Let's drop into the pen, as it were, where these wild animals are getting ready to tear it loose. And as you see, these are the men who have shown up right here. Matthew Brandt in that group. Adam Zimmerman in that group. There are some other names that you're going to want to know really well. Go ahead and scan them real quick. Scan them. See how many of them you know. Yeah, lots of them. Hey, welcome, folks on Mixer. We're glad to have you here. We're kicking this thing off in about 1 minute and 42 seconds. If this is your first time here, you're in for a treat. We're going to show you not only virtual bike racers. You do not play this game with a controller yet, although that would be interesting. We'll have to talk about that, Frank. But this man, winter is coming. Average Joe Bicycle.
I have to get over the whole MySpace thing. What is that? Could you explain? I've never heard of MySpace.
MySpace is where the kids are going back to. It was one of the first social networks. Before Facebook, it was cool. And now it's where the kids go to hide. Frankly, they want a clubhouse that mom and grandma are not hanging out in. Facebook has become something of the older generation. That's right. MySpace still exists. It is wonderful. All right. So as we see these riders looking fabulous, by the way, it's fun. That is Mr. Greg Leo. That's one of them. Matthew Brandt with some fabulous, crazy looking get-ups on. Harry Roberts as well. These are folks that you can check out on cycleview.cvrworldcup.com and check out what's going on in their world. Find out the who's who. The guy we want to pay close attention to today is this man, Greg Leo, on this run-in. We've just got a few seconds left, but this is the telemetry. There's this long, long tail to this tiny, feisty little animal that's about to kick things off. But this gate is going to drop, and things are going to go crazy. This is when things are going to get wild right at the very beginning. It's 43 kilometers to the end, but as the gate drops, it gets super fast. Greg Leo making a great move out in the front. Frank Deal also knowing that the better part of the sword to be is the tip. You want to be in the tip of the sword. You do not want to be in the hilt, and the hilt is pretty big right now with some recognizable names, not maybe where they should be. Matthew Brandt tried to climb back up, but you can get lost in the back of this thing. You cannot win the race in the opening kilometer, but you can most certainly lose it by having to put in too much effort. Roberts, Smith from Team Type 1 hanging on the back here. Merrim realizing that the Brazilian rider, is on the wrong end, chases back on. This is Greg Leo himself. Sunglasses on, ear pods in, hat on askew, because you know what? No one tells Greg Leo how to put his hat on. He's going to just watch the front of this thing. You'll notice he's doing just enough watts to make sure that he's in the slipstream of somebody. This is a very experienced rider. Okay, switching it over to the women's side. We're in the pen right now where we've got Vicky Whitelaw, Laura Miller, and, of course, Lauren McMurtry. This is where it's starting to kick off here. And Emily Joyner in this group. This is the women's group. Not the biggest women's group, but one of the strongest. Vicky Whitelaw with a nice push there at the front to see who wants to come with her. Well, Emily Joyner punched her ticket just a little while ago saying, I want to come with you. She's getting on the Vicky Whitelaw train, showing her what Australian pain is all about. Let's just be honest, Australian pain, not a lot different than, say, European or North American pain. But here is one of the strongest and most popular riders in the group. This is Lauren McMurtry. This is her kind of course, nice and flat. She's a powerful rider. She can put together a sprint. And as we move through the women's field, we've got Cheryl Muldoon, one of the favorites, making a big switch from Team Velocity Vixen to Team Cycling Hub this year. We'll have to find out a little bit more about that switch and what precipitated it. Sometimes it is the diffusion. Hey, that's a scientific principle. The diffusion of talent, right? You don't want all of the talent concentrated in one area. And so often talented riders will say, well, I really did enjoy working for you, sister, but I think I can win these things. So I'm going to go to a team where I am my own champion. And she's done a great job this season, sitting high in the standings. But as we look at this collection, Miller, Whitelaw, McMurtry, all there at the beginning, a little bit of caginess right here. This is when the excitement happens. You see, you've got a combination, folks, of two things. You've got the game, as the rider sees it, being transmitted along with the camera of the rider. Now, we continue to work with riders to kind of put their orientation in a little bit different way. In fact, case in point, Lauren McMurtry right here, she's got her pieces put together, game on one side, a rider on the other. Frank, why is that? Why do we want to see things in this format in CVR World Cup?
Well, it just connects you to, makes that human connection, right? It's one thing to see avatars, and they're cool, and we all like the virtual world, and we're all impressed by what an avatar can do. But when you want to see the pain on the face, you want to see the elation on the face, you want to connect to that human emotion. It's what makes CVR World Cup unique, right? You're up there, you're close, where the athletes are in motion, but they're not in motion. In terms of moving down the road, so we can just sort of get up close and personal. We see Lauren here. Lauren is probably we've done the last couple of weeks have been climbing weeks. I think Lauren is very, very happy that we are on a flat day today. There will be a couple of places where she's going to have to stick with the group, but that's the difference here. So, for instance, if we're going to just travel back to the men here, and someone who was wearing a big, I think it was a wolf costume here a little bit earlier in terms of on 8, right? And you see he's lost that because this is actual physical activity, and you get hot and you suffer, and there's not going to be that case of I'm going to wear a fur coat doing this. And I'm sure it was a politically correct fur coat. I'm just sure of it. But you see he is talking about winter is coming, kind of cool neon in his graphics. So, people getting very creative in terms of how they stream.
Yes, they do. And those are some glasses. I'm telling you, I've got a little bit of glass envy from Matthew Brandt. He is working pretty hard here, but he's definitely set up his room, his space to look fabulous. And that has become one of the interesting things. It's almost like fan service to the communities, to the worlds, to the riders being done. They're both doing cosplay and esports simultaneously.
Well, and I think one of the interesting, I think we should create a poll out there for Mixer and Facebook about whose glasses come off first. Is it going to be Leo that takes his glasses off first, or is it going to be Matt who takes his glasses off first? Or maybe we should say, over under 20 kilometers, because after a while the sweat starts to form on the inside of those glasses. They get fogged up and you can't really see, but it's cool for the start of the race.
All right, I'm going to do exactly what you suggested. The poll is up now. Whose glasses come off first? Is it going to be Greg or Matt? You've got 2 minutes to vote on this. The winner will get an awkward conversation from me. That's free. You don't have to pay for that. All right, so you choose who's going to come off first. Is it going to be Matt or Greg? Go ahead and vote on that right now on Mixer. So this is we talk about the kind of the fan service piece. There's a double camera action here coming from Steve Smith. This is this only part that can really create some jeopardy for some folks right here in the first. This is still the long lead in. We're going to come to Trafalgar Square right here, hang a hard right. We haven't technically started the course yet, although we're on the course, but these little gaps can really create some bother for these riders, can't they, Frank? I mean, the real question is, they're not getting away really at this point, but how much difficulty can you put yourself in this early? Greg Leo in a great spot here.
Well, they can, we were just, the rider that we were following, they can't really get away unless the rest of them get away and you don't, so to speak. Your day can certainly end early by getting gapped off the back, being inattentive, or maybe having a slight mechanical, something like that. And that can definitely hurt you in terms of staying in the race. Now, going off the front and staying away, much more difficult. We did see it in the previous zone, Zone E. Someone was able to stay away, but at the end they were only about a half a second ahead of a fast charging pack. The pack just didn't play it quite right.
They did not. Now, he's got a big kick off the front here, trying to make something happen early on. Scuba Steve, not sure who that is. That's not a real name. Is the only one in the gap there, maybe leading that chase group. This is an early move, and often it's just a question to the group. All right, who's feeling it today, right? Because you want to try to get that moving group out alone. Now, that is not disrespect from the rest of the group as we check out Frank Deal's, Steve Smith's point of view here, the BRT rider. But often that may be just a little bit early. As we check out the telemetry here, we see Matthew put about 5 to 6 seconds. Now, there are way too many good, strong riders behind him to let that happen. Many more riders than showing here on the telemetry in the group, but these are the ones that we think are going to be the most meaningful to you. On the line here today is the unbelievable trip to Vancouver, right? The automatic bid and qualification. And right now, the man who is in the driver's seat is Greg Leo. He's had some great efforts before. Next in line would be Frank Deal. But if he continues, and I mean this man right here, Dr. Greg Leo from Team Draft, if he continues to do what he has done every week, week in and week out, he won't just try to come across the line and not hemorrhage points to Frank Deal. He'll actually try to win this thing because that's what he does. He's been in sprint finishes more times than anybody else. It's unreal. And if we get a chance here a little bit in the doldrums, maybe we'll check out one of these sprint finishes in the past.
Yeah, there were some great sprint finishes earlier in the day. We'll certainly check those out. I wanted to sort of call out Brandt here. He's building time here, and that time is getting into the over the 10-second realm. When you get over 10 seconds, no single effort can bring it back typically, right? One person isn't going to bring that back all by themselves. It's going to take some coordinated team effort. And as that gets beyond 15 seconds, then Team Draft is setting up something very, very interesting here. And we're at about that 10 or 11 second point where other riders in the group will try and hold on. But Greg Leo gets to just sit in right now. And Matthew Brandt may be going for the longest solo victory we've seen this season on the order of 40 kilometers. Now that is going to hurt if he can stay away.
No kidding. And his heart rate is frankly too high. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but oh wait, I am. So I'm going to say that is too high for him to hold that long. They're going to pull him back within this lap. That's my prediction. As far as predictions go, Mixer thinks that Matthew Brandt is going to pull his glasses off first. It looks like our guy, Frank Deal, has done his thing. The question I had in the beginning was, are these actual glasses or are they Instagram glasses? We saw a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Kim Little managed to bring in his Instagram feed or something, and it was automatically putting a cat eyes and whiskers and a nose and ears on him. But Matthew Brandt, I think that those are real glasses.
Well, if they're not real, if they're not real glasses, all the people who said he's going to pull them off first are sure losers. And I'm taking the bet. I say they do not catch him inside this lap. So I guess I'm going to have the awkward conversation with you. If I lose, you're going to have the awkward conversation with me if I win.
All of these conversations are awkward conversations, Frank. All right, Greg Leo, just trolling here, just trying to make sure that he stays right where he needs to. His heart rate in a great position. Quick sip out of a drink, just nice drink right there. His glasses are still on. Now he knows what's up here. He's not going to lose the sunglass bet at this point, but I bet they come off before the sprint. This group is going to probably catch them. We'll see in a little bit. All right, back on board with the women. Cheryl Muldoon staying nicely in that spot. Now, the benefit, if you're new on Mixer, hey, what's up, Mixer? Yep, these are real women, real men racing real bikes in the hardest video game ever. This is what happens. You've got a bike, you put it on a power trainer. That power trainer sends data into the game. Yeah, you can do it with a treadmill too if you're running, but this is a cycling sport, a wonderful team sport. Now, as she goes up little hills and things like that, her trainer actually pushes back. It gets harder to go up hills. You'll see their heart rate go up. This is Lauren McMurtry, one of the most popular cyclists in the game right now. Very, very strong rider and a strong performer at CVR World Cup LA. So, Frank, we're getting close to actually deciding, well, this is week 8. We're going to advance some people directly to the live event in Vancouver, BC, the next CVR World Cup live event, and that's coming up in a little over a month. Help us understand just what is at play here, because I understand the prize purse is huge.
Well, coming up in Vancouver, the top man and top woman will take home over $10K in cash. And plus, that actually builds over time. There's cheering. There's much more that sort of adds into that. We've seen typically several $1,000s added to the prize pools just through cheering, where people are, cheering a buck here and cheering a buck there for their favorite rider, someone who is going, super hard. So, for instance, if we take a look at Brandt here, and I'm getting more confident that the awkward conversation will be coming my direction, not your direction, all the time here as we look at that duration, and he is doing a phenomenal job. Now, I tend to agree with you. I can't imagine him being able to maintain 194 heart rate. Think about that. That is like 3 times your resting heart rate. I mean, he is all out here. And just look at him. He looks cool, calm, collected. Now, granted, his mouth is a little bit open here because he wants to suck in a lot of oxygen. But yes, in Vancouver, these guys are going to be going for over $10K in the prize purse. We'll talk about the team tour a little bit later on as well, which is even more prize purse and also an exciting place to be as well.
Now, we just saw those guys put in a big kick up and over this hill, and we're starting to see that drop inside of 11 seconds now, 10 seconds. Those guys are going to probably pull him back before the line. I don't think he wants to stay out there. This is what it looked like just a second ago with Frank Deal up in the front. Well, in the middle there, just trying to hang on. You see that red stripe down the back of Greg Leo. That's Team Draft's jersey. You'll recognize that red stripe coming down the back and lots of those different folks. I'll introduce you to a few of these teams, too, because we want to talk about what's going to be offered to big teams here in just a little bit. And we want to ask the trivia question. Who was the first team to be formed in virtual racing communities? Who was the first team to be formed on Zwift and to become a real-life team? Started virtual, became real life. This is getting hairy at the front of this. Greg Leo is trying to really instigate this to try to catch back on. Matthew Brandt inside of now 8 seconds with the lead group. Miller, Steve, Leo, and O'Donnell really leading the gap. They can see him up there, Frank. I think I'm going to take this awkward conversation and be the grand winner of it, because it looks like they're going to pull him back maybe even before the big red banner.
I think Brant is going to go super hard here, just to try and stay away from me, because certainly, like if we, you can see Frank here is like, hey, can everybody calm it down? Can these commentators stop talking about the race and trying to make things happen? But I'm pulling for Matt. Come on, Matt. He's the one person on my side, it looks like. But I'm gonna have a conversation with Leo. I'm gonna send him some messages about, hey, don't be chasing your teammate down like that. He needs to stay away to the line.
Yeah, he does, but it's probably not going to happen. They are pulling him back. They have included him right there. Now, a savvy rider like Greg Leo is probably going to try to attack over the top. Maybe this is his opportunity. You've got a tired competitor who, a failed coup, if you will, tried to fail this state, the state of Peloton, and was not able to do it. And so when you have a little bit of weakness in power, what do? You attack yourself and try to take as much power as you can. This is what the catch looked like just a moment ago for Brant as he slides back into that group. Now, those guys are teammates. We must point that out, both of them, team draft. This is very strategic. So what, Frank, tell us is the value of having your teammate go on a flyer like that and put the group in such a tough spot?
Well, you can see, and you even mentioned it, Leo was very comfortable, low heart rate, just sort of sitting on, just watching, just being able to sort of relax. And the other team has stress, right? You have to think, do we need to chase this guy down? Is he really going to stay away for 40K? How far do we let him go? And you see they let him go, and then it occurs to you, wow, he's out there 15, 20 seconds. Like, that's not going to be easy to pull back. Maybe we should go get him now. And so they burn some energy chasing down your teammate because they don't want the race to be over before it began.
Well, look at this. Cheryl Muldoon showing that she is not content to just have any old spot on the podium. Wants to remind everybody how stinking strong she is. And we are reminded. Thank you very much. Coming through for the second time through this section. This is, of course, Trafalgar Square, virtual Trafalgar Square, coming up onto the Strand. That's what this section is called. So those of you who are not familiar with London or virtual London, this is the Strand. Now, Cheryl Muldoon just messaged me a moment ago. We see Vicky Whitelaw in the screen on the right. We see on the left, that is the face of Cheryl Muldoon, but excuse me, of Lauren McMurtry. She actually had a dropout that just got picked up on Race Radio. Such a bummer, she says, but she's going to keep trying to catch him, and that's what you do. Excellent work there. There she is, tapping it out on the team car. I believe that she can do it, so we say you go. All right. Now, as we look at this gap here, that's a tough spot, but these mechanicals happen. I mean, it's the digital version of a puncture, right? If you're in a bike race, say over the Alps, Alpe d'Huez, and you get a puncture, you get a flat tire, does the group wait for you?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's a little bit of a controversial topic. So, for instance, you see Vicky Whitelaw and Cheryl Muldoon putting out over 4 watts per kilogram, and the reason they're doing that is not because they're trying to leave Lauren behind, but you see Emily is just 4 seconds back, just the smallest gap, if you will, and they're like, well, it's too bad for Lauren, but we've got to leave Emily behind. We've got to stay on the attack here. And what Lauren should hope for here is that Emily does the bridge and everybody sits up and calms down, and she has a chance to time trial back on.
Yeah, and she's got some nice spots to be able to do that here too. You can achieve a little bit more on a flat like this as far as making up a distance, really kind of being out of sight, out of mind. Every single one of these riders is concerned about the sprint because a sprint is a fair fight. Now, Frank, you know this about me, but if you don't, Mixer World, Facebook World, I'm a university professor and a head of esports. And one of the things that we teach our players all the time is never take a fair fight. Now, listen here. It will explain what this is all about. Does that mean cheat? Absolutely never do that. But you never take a fair fight. You never want the conditions of that fight. Wow, big push by Muldoon here. You never want the conditions of your engagement to be dead even. You always want them to be to your advantage. So you have to be smarter. You have to work harder. If this were Fortnite, I would say never engage on an enemy unless you're sure you can eliminate them. Because if you don't, they're coming for you, right? Never take a head-to-head match. If they start shooting at you, don't stop, turn around, and start to take them out. you're already at a disadvantage. In a sprint in this, how does that apply?
Well, first of all, you mentioned Fortnite, and so I'm just going to have to comment about that. We see in our CVR World Cup Facebook messaging a lot that, hey, you guys are serious. Like, this is just a game. And Fortnite sort of encapsulates what I think about that, which is, yeah, it's just a game, but it's a $100 million game. That's right, $100 million. That's all that's all that is. Now we're a couple of zeros behind. Truth be told, we've only given out 220K so far in CVR World Cup. We've got Vancouver coming up, big prize purses there. We're announcing the team tour today. The top team takes home at least $20,000 in the next live, or the first live team tour event. Probably more on the order of 50K is what we're shooting for the inaugural team tour races. This is exciting stuff. Esports just changes the economics of everything, right? If we talk about the ladies who are racing, they earn 7 times, 8 times as much as they do in the real pro tour, right? The men's are still about a 10th place equivalents to the Tour de France. Esports economics are just crazy, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, they are, and it blows people's mind. They're like, for watching a video game. I mean, we see thousands of people today on Mixer whenever we stream. Tuning in and watching it, even if it's not a game that they know. Thank you very much. And if you're here for the first time on Mixer, let us notify you when these women, these men go live and race. You can see their real life efforts. You can see their in-game efforts simultaneously. Make sure you follow, and we'll be able to send you that message. So don't leave here without doing that. Okay, they're starting to get a little bit crazy here in the men's group. Whenever you see that long line, that snaking back and forth, that is an indication that there is work being done at the front of this group. Really, really hard work in some cases. That is the work that's happening there by Kaiser, Miller, Steve, Greg Leo sitting in a nice spot. Remember when I told you how to find those folks? Red stripe down the back, 2 draft riders right up front. Okay, now Whitelaw and Muldoon have gotten a nice little gap on Emily Joyner. Now this is a kind of a different look for these folks here. We're not used to seeing Cheryl Muldoon chasing.
Yeah, one of the things that I think that you'll see here is Emily is the rubber band has kind of come off, but the interesting thing is Emily's staying on the gas, and Cheryl and Vicky have come off the gas now. Now, is it because team cars have communicated and they're like, hey, Lauren had a mechanical, let her back in, or is it that Vicky and Cheryl are not working well together? And by that I mean, if Vicky's doing all the work, and maybe we can show Vicky here really quickly. So Vicky has an incredibly efficient mechanics in her pedaling stroke and her upper body, and the motion is like the perfect amount of motion, right? In terms of how you see her arms are very relaxed, that sort of thing. Now, if Vicky determined that she was doing all the work and Cheryl, on the other hand, was just sort of riding the wheel, then Vicky, at some point, says, geez, I don't know if I want to take you all the way to the end and lose in a sprint. Right? Like, I don't really want Emily with us, but I don't really want to take you all the way to the end and then you just beat me in a sprint. So I think I'm going to sit up and see if you're going to work. And then Cheryl's like, I'm not going to work because I'm a sprinter. And I think I can beat both you and Emily, at the finish. And so this is the sort of mental back and forth that people are playing during the game.
There we are, back to the thesis of this conversation, which is never take a fair fight. Vicky Whitelaw does not benefit from dragging Cheryl Muldoon to the line because, as you mentioned, she is a sprinter. That's not a fair fight. You don't take somebody with you who can steal your glory. You don't take your good-looking friend to the dance with you if you want to connect with a certain girl, because if he's too good-looking, you're in big trouble. So you got to slant it in your favor, and that's what Vicky Whitelaw wants to do. So she's going to make Cheryl come to the front, do a little bit more work. She doesn't get the aerodynamic advantage on the front. You do get it on the back there. And this may be the chance for Emily Joyner to come in. Now, Vicky Whitelaw probably will want to try to get away from what's going on here, and the opportunity to do it is to attack Cheryl Muldoon. If she knows she's going to be setting a pretty steady pace, she's going to want to do it alone, not with competitor in tow. But here comes the hill. This is where it gets super exciting. I think we're going to see some bigger numbers. Cheryl Muldoon also starting to put in those a little bit bigger numbers. Is Vicky Whitelaw going to make the effort? Doesn't look like this time.
Well, I think that Vicky's astute, right? She's raced bikes for a long time, very experienced. And what she may be doing here is she may have sat up. She's making Cheryl work. So Cheryl thinks, oh, I've got to work. And maybe she tries not to, but she sees Emily coming back. And then maybe Emily's a pretty good sprinter, and so she's not sure she can beat Emily, so she's like, okay, I'm going to work with you, and this is what can be really interesting. So you go to the front, you work, you hit the hill, you go hard, and then suddenly Vicky counters after your legs are already on fire, and then she can leave you behind. So it's a very delicate balance that you have to run as a rider.
It is a delicate balance without a doubt. And if anybody's got that balance worked out, it's Whitelaw. She is very comfortable just setting the pace that she's comfortable with. But really savvy, she's been putting Muldoon on her front wheel. This could be, if Emily Joyner can put together just a couple of more, just furious sections. Two riders do not give that much. All right, back to the men's race. Here's what we have going on. Frank Deal pushing a little bit harder on the front. Behind them, we're going to see a long strung out line. That's what we see from the angle of Matthew Brandt. It looks like Greg Leo might have instigated Frank Deal, kicked it into high gear to catch onto his wheel and then drifted around him. But this is the counterattack that comes over the top. Miller and Brandt very attentive. Brandt makes sure that he's there. Greg Leo has to respond, but unfortunately a huge gap opened in front of him. These guys looking around saying, you've got to close that, man. And that's not what he wants early. He wants to lock this thing up with a win today. He hasn't had that. This is a day without his number one competitor, Kai Barrett, so he wants the W today. But you're not going to be able to do that if you burn as many matches as you'll have to if you're the guy who closes the gap. Maybe a little bit of inattentiveness on Leo's part here, maybe not staying on the wheel of his teammate. That's what a teammate is for. He pulls you up there. But maybe there's a little discord in the team house right here trying to decide who's going to be the marked man today. What's your guess as we come to the close here? Could it be a case of Greg Leo working for his teammate Matthew Brandt? Or is it Matthew Brandt trying to really put the seal on this season and give his guy a lot of confidence with a win going into the postseason?
Last week, Matthew Brandt did an amazing amount of work for Greg Leo, and you saw it at the start here, but I think that might be a little bit of a play. Everybody thinks Brandt's out just to sort of work for Leo today, but Leo's got it locked up. We'll talk a little bit about that. Have a report on Kai. He's not really on injured reserve. We'll talk about his priorities, and maybe his priorities are a little mixed up, like his wife just had a child, and therefore.
Oh, what's that about?
Yeah,
come
I mean,
on,
can you believe he did not come?
Kai.
So we'll give Kai a little bit of a hard time on that, but I think most people would agree he's made the right choice. And so really today, I think this should be about Leo working for Brandt. And if I'm Deal, I'm going to spoil all that fun, right? Team X is going to come in here. We're going to X you out, and that great thing that you were going to do for your teammate is going to be for naught. That's what makes racing exciting, right? We're all out here to win, and we're all out here to see what we can do, and I think that's going to be the real key today. Now, there are a few other racers out here today that'll be like, excuse me, but I think I'm going to take the win.
I think there's a chance. Lauren McMurtry signaling that she is well enough off the back that this pace may cause her to get lapped, and was just asking for clarification on the lapped rider rule. This is like a crit in that sense that if you come back, look at that dig right there. Greg Leo trying to stay on the wheel of Miller. This is some interesting movement here. Early on, we're not even at the halfway point of this race. We're coming around to that halfway point, but not there yet. And Leo finds himself with a nice little tasty gap over a few of these guys. Not Frank Deal, not Scuba Steve, though, and certainly not Kaiser. Those guys all very attentive coming with him. But that's going to burn this a little bit. Now, let's go back to the glasses check real quick. I know we've got glasses still on Greg Leo. Are they still on Matthew Brandt?
Well, here's my call. I think I think you're right. I think that's like a Snapchat, some sort of overlay, something like that. But Leo is not going to give up the victory. That explains Leo in a nutshell, right? He probably can't see anything. There is probably drips of sweat, all over the inside of his glasses. Everything's blurry, and he's like, nope. I am not going to take off my glasses first, even if the other guy isn't actually wearing glasses. If I know Greg, that is totally how he is playing this game. Now, I comment, I have not talked with the officials, and I'm not going to talk to the officials, and I will probably get it in trouble from the officials. But I say to Lauren, sit up, get back in with Vicky and Cheryl, create a little bit of controversy here, and go for the sprint win. I did that in air quotes because obviously if you're a lap back, but I think it'll be fun to have a 3-up sprint, and it's unfortunate that she had a mechanical, so I think that would play well, and I'm pretty sure that Vicky and Cheryl are right now sending me a private message saying that's the worst idea they've ever heard of in their entire life.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. So, I mean, the etiquette on the road is that if you're in a race that allows you to stay in, right, if you get lapped by the leaders to stay in, then the appropriate etiquette is you can sit in, you can sit on, but you cannot participate in the work. Right? You let the others do it. If you want to benefit from their draft, hanging out in the back of the group, and you don't contest the sprint. Usually you sit up with 1K to go, you slide to the outside of the course if it's a closed course.
Oh, that's just to all sure too proper. Come on. This is esports. We want a little excitement. We want to see a little flashbang here.
That's right. Well, hopefully Lauren McMurtry will drop her ult, which is called Dance Party, and everyone in the group will start to dance, and they'll have to for 40 seconds. It's like a boogie bomb in Fortnite. Okay.
All I have to say about Lauren here is she has the most fun person in No Man's Land that I've ever seen in my entire life. Right? She just has this great time riding a bike, and it's such a joy, right? So this is the kind of thing that you see. She's listening to music, she's definitely getting a high level of fitness, and she's just she's a metronome right now. She's just going with the music, and she's just having a good time. Boy, I tell you, I don't have that same sort of mental fortitude. When I'm in No Man's Land, I'm suffering. I'm talking about, who's a jerk and who didn't do what right in the team, and, why am I out here? Which means, of course, it was me that did something wrong. But, we got, that part of being on a team is so that you can blame somebody else.
Yep, it is. Now, these two are blaming no one but themselves if they don't end up with this. Now, let me ask you real quick before we go back to the men's, because I understand things are starting to heat up there again. Cheryl Muldoon, what's her winning condition, Frank?
I think you mean in terms of Vancouver or postseason or that sort of thing?
I'm not looking anything past the next, 28 kilometers.
I think what you see here is I think Emily's dropped back a little bit. She's about 19 seconds back, something like that. And Emily is going to keep the gas on, right? And we'll try and at least get a picture of her avatar here and get a sense for what she's looking like. So her heart rate is 163. The riders are out of view. They're about 22 seconds up the way. But she's going to, she's at 3.3 watts per kilogram here. She's just going to, try and stay on the gas and bring this back eventually if Vicky and Cheryl start to do too much, tactical play.
Mm-hmm. And she's just setting a nice steady pace there. She's not getting herself too much out of the, out of what's going on there. She just tends to be right in there. 164 beats a minute is a nice endurance aerobic pace. She's not anaerobic. There's not going to be, dramatic drop-offs in her overall power. But I think these two women are sometimes dipping into that anaerobic a little bit more. That can be a problem. I certainly know for me, but they're very fit athletes. They probably have quite a bit. Each of them probably has more anaerobic time than you and I combined. I'm thinking right now.
Well, one of the things Well, I have to say this, Chris. I'm pretty good anaerobically. I'm not that great aerobically, but I'm pretty good anaerobically. So that's a discussion for a different time. But one of the things you asked me about Cheryl, what's her winning conditions? And I think what you see here, she wants to stay in front of Emily. That's why I brought up Emily, and so she's got to work with Vicky a little bit. And I think Cheryl's really excited here. This is a big win, right? If you take Vicky out, that's a big win for you. It's a big confidence booster, and you can kind of see the intentiveness in Cheryl's face, right? If you just sort of look at here, she's intent. She wants to stay where she wants to stay with Vicky. She wants to play it all right, and then she wants to beat Vicky at the end. And if we go to Vicky, you can sort of see Vicky going like, I got this. We got this, and that's why Cheryl wants to take her out, right? Because Vicky does have the experience. Vicky is super strong, and Vicky can sprint. So this is going to be very exciting down towards the end. We're going to switch over to the men. Big attack going on in the men's race.
Ooh, Matthew Brandt tearing the roof off of it. Greg Leo, his teammate, on his wheel. This is maybe an opportunity you can get away, and that's exactly what you want. You want teammates there together. One of the often ways that we do this is you send somebody off the front, nobody pays much attention, then in a quiet moment, you attack yourself, and you end up there with your teammate, and then you have a dynamic duo that requires the seriousness of the group. Leo drifts to the front here. O'Daniel chasing it down. Frank Deal, very attentive for Team Experimental, but only one teammate today, Morehouse, but he is a minute 43 back, and he's going to try to get up there. It's all on Frank Deal, Team Experimental, to get up there. He's got a chance to win this thing today and would love a win this season. Miller, an earlier instigator in that all-black jersey. The reason you wear that all-black jersey is you've done 100 miles on the course. That is 100 statute miles in a virtual world in one ride, which is a very proud and actually surprisingly low group of people. Okay, it looks like they're coming back together. Greg Leo, big breaths coming to pull that oxygen back into his lungs. Hat now backwards. This position must be more aero inside. He's trying to get away. We should have known it was coming, shouldn't we, Frank? He turned it backwards, but it looks like none of these guys are going to get that separated. Big attack again. This time it's somebody completely different. That would be Steve, who is kicking it off the front. Miller, the name that we called just a moment ago, is a great counter. You want to do it when they're at their weakest, but this is a nice spot for this team, specifically Team Draft, to cover those attacks really, really quickly. And then there's a counterattack right again over the top. Who would it be but Matthew Brandt delivering it himself? Find a wheel, Greg Leo, and stay on. There's Matthew Brandt, the teammate right there. Those are real glasses. I can confirm they're actually lit glasses. They actually have LEDs in them. That comes from the team car itself. He is wearing real glasses and tearing it. I think both these guys are going to keep their glasses on to the very end. Scuba Steve is the guy who's trying to cover. This is going to be 4 or 5 seconds before we even stop talking while this thing tears up. Yeah.
One of the interesting things is when do you attack? And it's completely counterintuitive. So Neil, I used to call him sort of the torture master. He would say, okay, whenever you're hurting, whenever you just want to stop, you want to quit, you just want to get off your bike right now, that's when you attack. That's when you put in the biggest effort. And why do you do it then? Because that's how everybody else is feeling. And often if you can do it right then, if you can have the mental fortitude to do it right at that point, and you can get your muscles to actually respond, because that's a whole different discussion. But if you can get your muscles to actually respond in that sort of state, other people will just watch you go away because they're like, I want to get off my bike right now.
I can't do this any longer. Yeah, that is the way it goes. It's like flogging yourself with a cat of nine tails. It is pain personified.
And you see that here. You see it here.
Yeah.
If you look at the group, Leo's not going to chase. Frank Deal's like, okay, I see Brandt up the road, but he's got another, 17 miles to go. Just go, right? Like, fine. If you think you can go from here, go ahead and take it, because I'm done suffering.
Yeah, no kidding. And they are slowly pulling him back there, but it is a group effort. Drift to the front, take a few pulls there, and then come back. Now, this will be, it looks like Greg Leo putting himself in a nice little spot. I'm watching his heart rate very closely, not trying to give away his thing here, but look at him ramp up right here. He's going to come through this section. For most people, this is the finish line, and they mentally back off there, and he attacks right over the top like he should do. He's trying to get up there with Matthew Brandt. They're going to try to put this together together as a two-man break. And look at the big red numbers behind. These guys know that this is a dangerous move. You do not want to stick your hand in the mouth of an alligator. That's just random advice, but it's also true. Matthew Brandt, Greg Leo, going to come together right here. Now, here's what we need. We need one of these guys to really pick it up. Come on, Matt. This was your chance. You can't get dropped off the back there. He can't wait for you. But you got to get on his wheel so the two of you can work together. And he is out of the saddle trying to recover that distance. But, man, you should have been looking behind you. This could be the death nail. You want that immediate value of two people together in aerodynamics, but Miller is going to pull him back, and they're all going to come back together. Little mistakes here, Frank, I think, that could have made that a more meaningful move. Would it have stayed away forever? Maybe not. But what if they could have knocked a couple of people off the back of that group?
Well, here's what I think. I think these guys are playing a good game, and it started at the very beginning. And the game that they're playing is they look like they're making mistakes. Draft is a very savvy team, and I think these guys are sort of playing the rope-a-dope, right? They're like, oh, we kind of make a mistake here, and you kind of make a mistake there, and then let's look, let's hang our tongues out. You look at Leo right now, or you look at Brandt right now, and they look like they're totally exhausted. They're trying to send that communication. I don't buy it for a second. These guys are setting everybody up, and they're going to go hard sometime. And the other guys are going to go, they don't stay. They're not going to stay away, and they're going to make a mistake, and blah, 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 blah. And one of these guys is going to go hard until the end. I don't think that's going to happen for maybe another 5 miles, something like that, maybe a little bit earlier. But I think they will try and go from quite a distance.
They are doing a nice job here, and that is exactly the value of a team event. So let's talk about this. You announced today that we're going to have a team event. What's it called? Roughly when's it going to start, and who is going to be able to be there? How much detail can you give us right now?
CVR World Cup Team Tour. Basically, CVR World Cup is building a new professional sport. It is physical, it is virtual, it is exciting. That's the key, right? You want to watch it, yep. You want to see it play out, you want to see these people, up close and personal. For instance, if we went to Frank looks like he's suffering a little bit, trying to sit in, trying to recover, but all of these attacks, are hurting. And as I was saying, earlier, you start to really speak awful names about the people who are going off the front when you feel this way. It's not a pleasant thing. They are. I think this is one of these things that's not really politically correct these days, but they are actually hurting you, right? I mean,
right.
And they mean to hurt you, which makes it doubly bad, right? and so you will say things that aren't the best sometimes in the heat of the moment. And Frank, you can see he's recovering here a little bit as well. But anyway, back to the new professional sport. So this is a new professional sport. It's a combination of the physical. It's a combination of the virtual. And if you think about it, that's completely different than anything else that's out there. We are the first physical esport on the planet, and you can check out Aussie.com and some future-looking sites about what that means. But basically, they say the sweaty esports are coming, and they are coming, and they are coming in a big way. Big money, big shows at big venues. We've been in Las Vegas, London, Paris, Los Angeles. I think I'm forgetting someplace. We're coming up in Vancouver. Roanoke. Okay, well, which one doesn't fit? Which one doesn't fit? Yep.
Well, and this is exactly the thing that you're talking about, right? You've got hard work happening right here. Let's jump back over to the women's race for just a second, although I think it's going to get exciting on that hill for the men. It looks like Cheryl Muldoon with a big gap. We tend to lose a visibility as you come through this section, as she does there. But Whitelaw on her tail, a little bit of a kick as they were coming up the hill again. It is interesting to me that Muldoon is now doing what Vicky Whitelaw does, which is to kick it. There's the big kick up the hill. Frank Deal trying to catch on to Greg Leo. O'Daniel, Brandt attacking off the front. This is a big move again as they come up this hill. You can see the work on the face of Frank Deal. He is trying to just stay in this. His heart rate was in a nice, comfortable 147 just a moment ago when we last checked in. Speaking of heart rates, check out these guys. Matthew Brandt right there, tongue out, heart rate 187. That is really, really fast. That is a lot of work right there. O'Daniel, the competitor, hanging out with him right there. That's James O'Daniel, for those of you keeping track at home. A guy who probably, if he had done more of the races, could have been right up there in the total points classification, but showing that he probably wants to come away and win this. The rest of the group comes back together. But let's take a peek down the line there. Look who is now chasing on. Matthew Brandt. O'Daniel showing that plus 2 seconds. They are behind, right? There are a few riders that did not make this. Smith, who we called earlier, so far behind, he's ahead. That'll happen. I often end up so far behind that I'm ahead. But look at the heart rate now for Greg Leo. He's trying to just get in the slipstream. He does less work. He gets less resistance on his trainer. Doesn't have to spin his legs nearly as hard. Matthew Brandt with the visibility a little bit different right now.
Yeah, I think Matthew might be having a mechanical here, and we missed some hand gestures a little bit, which might be good since we're family friendly. Mm-hmm. But the and actually his weren't that bad, but you could tell he was very disappointed. Oh, now everybody's come back. Sorry, while I was speaking, everybody disappeared for him, and he fell off the back, and now he's got to try and get back on. So he's had this mechanical, just everybody went invisible on him, and he didn't go quite hard enough. And now does Leo wait for him? I bet Leo does.
I bet Leo does too. The two of them are going to work back together. This might be the opportunity if Miller has anything in the tank, and he seems to be the most agitated of the group. But boy, you put in a big dig like Brandt just did, get some of that top speed. It is moving speed. That is the thing that matters most, right? We talk about power a lot, but if the group, hey Frank, if a group leaves the start line going 24 miles an hour, and then 2 minutes later, another group leaves the start line going 30 miles an hour, how long will it take them to get together?
About that long.
Okay, you're right. Absolutely right. It'll take as long as it took Brandt to get back in the group, and he is back in the group. But you point out something that is very important here. So he's at home. He's probably on Wi-Fi. Something got funky, and he got dropped a little bit, and he wasn't able to see the other riders. That is like part of what the game does. That's why you bring people together. That's why they race in a real room with the other competitors. It's why you make sure all the equipment is the same. All right, jumping back over to the women, we see that the two of them are just now kind of coming through this section again around the big fountain. You can see Buckingham Palace right over on the side there. This is a very, very nice spot of virtual London, lots of virtual trees. It smells virtually very nice here, but they are at 28.3 kilometers. They have about 16 left to go. If Vicky Whitelaw wants to shed Cheryl Muldoon, what does she have to do? Because we've established she does not want to sprint her.
Well, I think, maybe in our minds, Vicky doesn't want to sprint her, but looking at Vicky, I think the way that the esports works, I think this is great because they're hearing the commentating as we go, and I think Vicky's like, you guys don't think I want to sprint? Yeah, I want to sprint. Like, I'm going to ride here with Cheryl this whole time, and I'm going to show you guys how it's done. And you see her, being very relaxed, and she's following Cheryl a lot here, right? You still got Emily, far enough back from the Vixen squad that she's not too worried about it, right? At this particular point in time, and you got Cheryl on the front. And if we go look at Cheryl just for a moment, it's the intensity that I love here. Cheryl's like, I don't care what Vicky thinks, I don't care what Frank thinks, I really don't care what Chris thinks.
Yeah,
I am going to win the sprint today. I am going to take this race, and that's how it's going to be done. And Vicky's like, nope, I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, Cheryl, I want to point out that I was in your corner. You don't drink that water disrespectfully when I'm talking to you. I am in your corner. I'm on your team. But did you notice the difference in heart rate? Did you notice the difference in heart rate between those two riders?
I wasn't paying enough attention, but I bet you were, Chris.
I was paying enough attention. About 30 beats. Cheryl's heart rate is 30 beats higher than Vicky's right now. And I don't care how fit you are or what type of fitness you have, that is a significant difference. And we can say statistically that is a significant difference.
I say Cheryl takes the win today, even with 30 beats per minute higher. And here's why. She wants it more today. And I think that is going to be the difference.
She wants it more. Now, how is that statistically referenced? How do we? Where is the want? Where's that in the formula? I'm looking through the paper here. Is that no? It's not table 3. What is it?
That is 1 plus. I want it I want it is greater than 1.
Okay, now and no one's watching. The writers are not even watching now. Lots of folks checking it out on different venues, and we want to thank you for joining us. If you're joining us on Mixer or on Facebook, click the follow, click the like so we can show you, notify you when these racers are doing their thing. Lots of comments dropping into the field here. Allison Kubota, Adam Zimmerman. The trend is contagious, as he says. These are both really, really strong racers. Adam was, of course, a unbelievable contestant in the event in Los Angeles. Surprising people? Maybe not. Maybe everybody knew he could do it. But what do we see in these events? Events like Vancouver coming up, what new stories are we going to be able to tell?
A couple of really interesting news stories. So we have the standard mini stage race stuff that we do. But we're also going to have, Saturday is going to be a little bit more taxing, or shall we say a lot more taxing. I will leave it there. We don't want to give away too many secrets about some announcements that will be coming up here in the postseason. But some really exciting stuff happening on Saturday, in addition to the mini stage races. And maybe there's a difference in the mini stage race in Vancouver from the ones that we've been experiencing. And I think we're also going to work with Zwift to set up the mini stage race so that people who aren't in Vancouver can race that and understand how difficult that actually is as an event.
Oh boy, here they go. These attacks have started to come before the corner, the Big Bend corner, of course. They're going to come up. This is past Whitehall here, and this big hill right there takes them right back up to Trafalgar Square, and this is where really crazy things have happened in the past. This is the best spot to put pressure on the rest of the group because you can get more advantage from your watts and your kilos and the math over other folks. But look who barges by. That would be Miller again, trying to do what he's done before. Nathan Miller, the lowest in the points right now, but he wants this win today. He wants to take it away from the others. Now back on board with the women, we see Vicky Whitelaw doing just about the same thing. This is the same part of the course, and Cheryl Muldoon has got to do something about it. She's got to close her back. Now it looks like she's getting a little bit bigger in the viewfinder of Muldoon, and she's going to come back on. But Whitelaw just checking to see the attentiveness there and the power. Maybe this was not the getaway. She didn't want to do 13 kilometers all by herself, but she wanted to see what she was able to do. But if she doesn't come with her, Whitelaw's like, hey, I'll just put it in my go gear and I'll just say goodbye to you. Now they're a little bit of a transition here as Cheryl comes up and over. Different posture right there. It looks like she's not going to chase.
Yeah, what you saw here, and again, crafty racer that Vicky is, you just saw Vicky kind of just sitting on her wheel for the longest time, heart rate down at 130, that sort of thing. And then at the point where she, you mentioned the heart rate, maybe Cheryl's got a little bit high of a heart rate, and Vicky's like, okay, you know what? Pedal to the metal. I'm just going to leave you here. The men's race came back together, everyone. If you're wondering about that, we'll go back there in just a second. But this is probably the race in the ladies' race right here. So Vicky, very, very crafty move. Let Cheryl do a lot of work, get that heart rate pretty high, and then Vicky just on that little dig, right? And that's why you see everybody being attentive on that little hill. That little hill was enough to separate the two racers, and now Vicky is strong enough. We know this from every week throughout the regular season. She's strong enough to stay away, as well. Now this is sort of interesting. I think everybody's given us a show today, so I have to shout out to the racers of Zone F, both the men and the women. Fantastic job, right? I mean, a flat course, you could, in theory, have 40 kilometers of just, holding hands until there's a final sprint. But no way. If what we're seeing here is, absolute. People, pulling it back. We see, sort of Cheryl coming back here, to Vicky as well, and sort of going back, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays. But the men attacking left and right, making it hard on us commentators and here in the studio, making it hard. Just where do we pick, right? I mean, attacks happening in both the women's race and the men's race at the same time. Very, very interesting racing today.
Yeah, I feel like they're coordinating this craziness, trying to make it harder on us. Thanks a lot, Cheryl. Nice job catching back on with Vicky Whitelaw there. That was tenuous there for a moment. Vicky now starting to calm it back down. Look at the heart rates again, 139 beats for Whitelaw, and it was up in the 160s for Muldoon, and that is what we saw before. Muldoon, this would be the spot where she would tear it open. All right, back with the men right now. We see where they are on course. The chase group, unbelievable. And that's a little bit of a misnomer there, because when we come through that interesting piece there in the middle, sometimes that can be, but maybe it is. Maybe that's exactly how far the gap is. If I were Christoph, that's where I would be. But you see that group in the really tricky part of the course. Now they're about to finish this thing. We're getting real close to the big finish here. Well, what is your with just less than 3.3 kilometers to go? What is your belief on how this thing is going to shape up?
I think that's 3.3 miles, so more on the order of 5 kilometers.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
But I wasn't good at math. I get you're not good at linear distance, so it's all good. What you're going to see here, I think, is everybody setting up. Everybody's pretty tired. Frank Deal's got his head down. He's scratching his side. What you're trying to do now is hope nobody attacks right here, because you just want it to get to the sprint and give it your all, and you don't want to have to be putting forth a lot of effort at this point in time. But we're going to make this turn. There's often an attack on the turn here, and it looks like Brandt's going before the turn, and that's a really good move. Like, do a surprise area, do it not where people are expecting it, and so he's doing it before you would expect it, and then I bet he's going to try and do some continuance through that. Although his watts dropped way down, maybe he was just trying to get people to jump.
Yep, and it looks like that may have been the case, but never take a fair fight. He also may have been pulling down some data which told him whether or not that would have been successful. Sometimes that data is external. You're looking at the watts, the efforts, the attentiveness of those around you, and sometimes you're looking at that internal data. Do I have it? Can I do it? Can I ramp this thing up? And it looks like other people have the same idea too. Yeah, this is a big push now by this group. I can't believe 18 minutes. That's what I was confused at first. It looks like but huge gaps, over 7 minutes back to Smith, to Agnew, to riders that really would, under normal circumstances, be in this group. This is a unbelievably fast group.
Yeah, a lot of attacks, and here you see the power of the group, right? Like, this group has been riding together, and they have been riding hard. And if you missed the train, right, if you missed the boat, so to speak, if you didn't stay with them when you needed to stay with them, you didn't lose a minute. You didn't lose 30 seconds. You lost 5 minutes. You lost 6 minutes. You lost 10 minutes. You lost 18 minutes. That is the power of the group in cycling, and that's why it's a team sport. And everybody tends to think of it, this isn't golf. This is a team sport. It's a little bit harder to tell because usually, there's one strong man at the end that you're trying to send off. But the way that you get a strong man to the end is working together as a team.
It is. And now one of the men that we've often seen with this big thumbs up from Greg Leo just a moment ago, I like to see that, is Adam Zimmerman, who is watching very, very carefully here. He had some interesting things to say as we come to the close of this, Frank, about virtual cycling, where maybe a year ago people would not have given it the cred that it deserves. What were his thoughts as a world-class athlete?
Well, he competed against Lionel Sanders, second in Kona, world champion, long course, triathlon champion, silver medalist at Kona World Championships. And, I think everybody's familiar with Ironman and Kona, so I won't go into that. And Adam was able to beat Lionel Sanders in Los Angeles at the major, and I think Adam almost killed himself. Certainly there was people laying on the floors. We used the paramedics just a little bit more than we wanted to in Los Angeles. People go amazingly hard, and when there's people next to you screaming and yelling and cheering you on, it changes things.
Now it's starting to tear it up a little bit more. Here we hit this hill, and very attentive Greg Leo, making sure that he's going to be at the front. We're inside 1.5 miles to the big finish here. He is very, very serious. Glasses still on, as they are with Mr. Brandt as well. But Dr. Leo, he is a professor. We'll tell you the university in maybe just a minute here, but specifically over economics, and he's been very economical today in game theory, no less, but his economy has been about using his energy at the right time to do the right things, and it is leading him very nicely to the big finish here in just a moment.
I think there's another poll that I want you to run for us, Chris, which is, will either Matt or Greg wear glasses at the start of the next race?
All right, we'll ask that in the next one for sure. But Brandt with a huge explosion off the front. Leo is, you notice he takes a few strokes off. He's going to let those guys pass around him, as he should. This is the key. And then he gets out of the saddle a little bit just to make sure that he's pumping it up. Now he knows that these guys have to do it. This may be the winning move. As Brandt continues to push, this may be his go brother go message from Leo. He knows where he's got to be. I love the gray beard. That is just fabulous. It's almost white. I raced with a guy locally here who looks almost exactly like that. This like skinny Santa Claus on a bike, riding it like he stole it. And Brandt is, in fact, riding it like he stole it. You hear bad boys, what you going to do in the background. But none of these boys are going to do anything about it. Greg Leo opened the door and said, how do you feel? And nobody took a step in. It looks like if this holds 12 seconds to Matthew Brandt, he's going to get away. Kaiser, the next guy who can do it. But you got to be completely aware. If you set the pace here and you're without a teammate, you are basically giving second place to somebody else. But Miller wants to try to bridge up all by himself, and he does it at the right time. He gives a big kick here at the end. They're about to come down to the finish. Can they catch him, Frank? What is your thought before the big finish?
I say they're not going to catch him because he's got more than 10 seconds on this lead-in. And did I mention earlier that they were playing the rope-a-dope? You know, keep sending Matt out there. Matt keeps failing. Oh, Matt goes at the end. He's going to fail. He doesn't have any power left. Oops, he won.
Yep, and the big kick starts to go here. We'll fill you in on the details of our other show called I Told You So here in just a little bit. But Frank Deal is trying to get off the front of this group. He's not going to be able to catch Brandt, but he wants that second position. He wants the field sprint, but they're coming really fast on him. Greg Leo may have the opportunity to catch him. That gap is getting smaller and smaller. There he goes. That's our guy right there. Big move off the front. He explodes by Greg Leo. He's been showing us this sprint power all season. The rope-a-dope worked perfectly. Okay, lining out what we see here. He sees Frank Deal go, but he knows when he wants to go. He knows that that guy can run out a rocket as well as anybody, but he cranks it up 700 watts, 750 watts. Can he trigger that 8 when he gets inside that? Yep, there it is. Can he break 1,000? Can he ring the bell? May not need to. Comes around. The fear is high in him that somebody, maybe Scuba Steve, is going to catch him. Looks at those numbers. He knows he can back it off just a little bit and come across that line in second place. What a huge race for Team Draft today. They've got Matthew Brandt, glasses still on. That's impressive. And, of course, his teammate coming across second.
Leo just took his glasses off in a salute to his teammate. That was after the race, so we'll have to get a ruling from the judges as to who wore their glasses longer. But look at Brandt here, just exhausted himself, and he just pumped his fist and then fell back on his handlebars, and he's like, nope, I can't even sit up straight at this point. And oh, by the way, maybe I'll get that towel. Now that towel was in a place where that could be a pretty disgusting towel, so I'm a little bit disgusted by that face wipe there.
Well, depending on what the judges say, the glasses are off for Matthew Brandt. He is very, very happy to be there. He's got his team communication right there, race radio. But here is the way it looked. With Matthew Brandt clearly off the front, this instant replay shows us that the next guy who wanted to be on the podium was Frank Deal. The question is, did he actually make it? Greg Leo with much higher watts, almost 3 watts per kilo higher. That in a short run up like this, as they come across the actual sprint zone line, allows him to blast by. Frank responds almost a second late, but he can't get it going. He knows Scuba Steve is chasing him down. It may have been just a little bit too much. The confidence can be high at times for the team experimental rider, like all riders, but we see here from Leo's point of view that no one was going to catch him at that point. A gap of a second back to him. This is what it looked like from his perspective seconds earlier. He sees Frank go as soon as he hits the red. That may be Frank's favorite spot to go. Not sure, but he has to jump early if he can't out-sprint these guys. But then Greg Leo does what he does. Look at that cadence right there. Out of the saddle, he's got a very deliberate, power-hungry style where he can get those watts up right where he needs to. He knows that he can hold that 800 for a little bit, but he's taking off big bites with those legs. They have to be burning, and it comes around him as the sprint zone begins. This is going to give him the escape velocity necessary. No one in his slipstream, they're going to have to do a ton of power to even catch him, and he even gets those ride-ons, those cheers falling in his pocket as he goes. This is a champion's champion. Think we're going to see him at the next stage of this thing. What can you tell us about his potential advancement to the live event in Vancouver?
Well, so Leo definitely earned a spot in the live event today. Great riding by Team Draft. I would say that the MVT, most valuable team this season, certainly the team riding the best, has been Team Draft.
Whoa. Unofficial.
That's commentator's opinion, even if he's on Team X, right? But fantastic teamwork. They took 1-2 today. Like I said, they sort of did the rope-a-dope thing. Now they're saying we attacked, but sometimes you set that up. He got away. A fantastic win for him today. The team's going to be super excited by that. Leo comes in second. I can tell you right now, they're all high-fiving. They're all talking on the team car about how great Team Draft is and how wonderful they are. And it was indeed very, very well played. And we're going to switch back over to the ladies, who are going to, are also on the final lap. And it's the Cheryl Vicky show that we're about to watch, and I think they're setting up for a sprint finish as well. I want to take Cheryl. I'm all in for Cheryl. So that's my heart. But I think my head says Vicky's going to take the win.
Vicky has been really conserving her energy throughout this, but has also shown incredible moments of explosiveness. I predict that if she's going to do it, she's going to do it in an unexpected spot where she can get a big jump on Cheryl and then hold that gap. If you get, say, 5 seconds on somebody, you can watch their overall power output and try to match that. That's the gaminess here, right? That's the, well, gaminess sounds like it might be stinky, but that's the game character of this, where you can use those different abilities to keep it on there. That's her ultimate, as it were.
If their fans are not high enough, it is stinky.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I do have a little bit of info from Lauren from earlier. She mentioned what song she was singing. Young Blood, 5 Seconds of Summer was the song that she was singing at the top of her lungs earlier while riding. But Muldoon and Whitelaw fighting for that spot. Now, as we look at the let's talk about this. Vicky Whitelaw right now, with 6 races. They both have 6 races, 20 points separating the two of them. What's the chance we could see these riders again at a live event together?
I think it's high. What happens is from the 8 zones, the winners of the 8 zones get to come, but there's a couple of invites that are left to play as well. So we can pull those people in, invite people. Maybe there was a close competition in one of the zones. Maybe someone won on streaming points and someone was very close that wasn't streaming. Of course, we want everyone to stream, but we might invite someone like that. So it gives us the opportunity to invite some people. For instance, in Los Angeles, we invited Lionel Sanders, a world champion, world-class athlete, and so that was very exciting. So that's what the purpose of the invites is.
And we see the gaps there in the telemetry. That's where the women are on the course. And this is coming up for the big finish. Just a couple of kilometers left. We see the kilometers here, not miles. I can tell the difference between statute and metric. But they're going to do this. Now, my prediction before was that alien-clad black jersey right there. That would be Vicky Whitelaw in a position where she would attack a little bit early. Here's McMurtry. She's in a different spot of the course, maybe looking for the opportunity to get lapped, but then she started putting in a pretty good workout. She had a mechanical dropout early, and there we go, making me look like the genius I am. Vicky Whitelaw doing a big attack early. Cheryl Muldoon not responding nearly as much or at all. She's got to really ramp it up. Maybe she said, that's all I can do. Broken will, broken legs, or maybe she's going to kick it up at the right time and pull that distance back like she did last time. 5 seconds to Vicky Whitelaw. Now she's in the big ones. She's out of the saddle right now. This is a huge move. Cheryl Muldoon not matching the overall effort, and that looks like 2 seconds back by this. I saw 5 a minute ago. Yeah.
While Vicky is here in go mode, right? You can hardly tell. Vicky is just so efficient. Everybody should, just study her pedal stroke. She gets an immense amount of power, generated through those legs down into the pedals and back out into the virtualization system, and it gets injected in. And she says, "Sayonara, everyone. Goodbye."
Wow. And this is what we see from Cheryl Muldoon's view. She sees that she's getting away, but she knows what she can do on this hill. She's starting to look like those legs may burn. Now, I don't know. I don't have any data other than what I see. And I recognize a difference in her posture. I want to put out as much effort as I can, but I'm also really nursing a cramp or dead legs that may prevent me from doing more than what I'm doing right now.
Well, and here, if you look at the heart rate, I think she's near her maximum heart rate. She's done all that she can. She had the intensity, she had the heart, but today Vicky just had the legs, right? So that's what makes the reality of sport that is so captivating and makes people want to watch, because this is, you might want Cheryl to win, and Cheryl might want Cheryl to win, but if Vicky's got the legs and Cheryl doesn't have the legs today, well, that's the way it's going to be. And Vicky is, a phenomenal champion of the zone and fantastic riding today. And I think lots of people are rooting for Vicky. I certainly will be rooting for Vicky in Vancouver as well. But she is so efficient. This is just she doesn't look like she's putting out 300 watts. She doesn't look like she's putting out 5 watts per kilogram. I mean, really, if you want to be a good bike rider, this is a video to study.
Yeah, it is. Very strategic. And I'll bet you that the other opponents that are going to face her are going to be looking at this to pull those tactics. They're going to be studying film on these different riders that they may face in Vancouver. And I think Vicky Whitelaw is one of those. 36 seconds back to Muldoon now. This is all but decided in the women's bracket. The points clearly in the favor of Vicky Whitelaw, the Australian rider. Cheryl Muldoon will end up with that second. That's the best she could have done today, unless Vicky Whitelaw had some terrible mechanical. Lauren McMurtry, all of these women streaming their races for us, which is fabulous. And many other riders kind of coming through. She's got to feel really excited here. I would imagine there's going to be a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of celebration that's going to come across Vicky's face here in just a minute as she passes, because this is quite an accomplishment. She won one of the 8 global zones in CVR World Cup League. And that is going to get her an invitation all the way from Australia into Vancouver, British Columbia for the live event. And as she crosses here, you're going to see a little bit of a smile from her, without a doubt, feeling of satisfaction as the distance ticks down to 0. Arms raised. Big smile, Vicky. Congratulations. You are the Zone F women's winner. And we're going to hopefully see you in Vancouver. Another great racer who stuck with her through thick and thin. Huge improvements all year. She is a veteran of a CVR live event, specifically the major in LA. Hung on with her until the last climb. 200 meters to go. She's going to feel really satisfied with the overall effort that she put in here. She's probably going to give us that fabulous smile that she does. Going to feel good about it. She would have liked to have had that sprint opportunity, but it was not in the cards for her today. But a strong second position. Nice job. She looks over to see the gap. Big thumbs up. Second place. Very, very happy with it. Lots of fans of hers online watching all the time. Very, very good stuff. Okay, so we're getting close to the end here. I do want to know one more thing before we go, Frank. There's so many different people. And, hey, if you're watching on Mixer, if you're watching on Facebook, click that like. And tell us what you think of this whole thing. If you have some criticism, things you'd like us to change, beginning with Frank, would you be willing to do this differently? I know you wouldn't change anything that I've done. Lauren McMurtry still on the course, tapping at a nice little tempo there. Nothing to scoff at there. She's continued, even though getting dropped off the back with that mechanical, that basically power dropout. She's kept a nice pace and made this a good workout for her. Heart rate nice and high. She's still doing good work. But Frank, as we kind of get ready to close this thing out, I'd like to know just a little bit more about the big announcement today with the team event. What time of year is that likely going to take place, and how many teams might it include?
Well, we're
more to come for sure.
Yeah, so what we know for sure, it'll definitely happen by the winter season, might happen for the fall season, but the teams might need a little time to organize themselves, and so that might start in the winter season. And what we're doing something a little bit different here from the very beginning in this new pro tour, pro team. The team are involved at the beginning, as are the athletes. So we have a team committee, we have an athlete committee, and we're going to support the athletes. Again, we pay women and men equally as an example of how we support athletes. We make sure that all of the athletes that come to these events earn enough money to pay for coming to the event and beyond as well. And so that team committee will decide whether we go in the fall season or in the winter season, but it'll be one or the other. I think a winter season is a little bit more likely, but we'll see how it plays.
Okay, well, we're getting close to the end here, so maybe it's time to thank you and to say goodbye. This is the women's standings for Zone F. Whitelaw, Muldoon, and McMurtry, 1, 2, 3. Emily Joyner. By the way, these are the standings in the season. Lauren McMurtry with a podium finish in Zone F. Nice job. A lot of other good riders in that. On the men's side of this, Greg Leo, Kai Barrett, Frank Deal. Round out that overall season for Zone F. That is a lot of great work out there. Matthew Brandt, the teammate, in fourth. Great work to everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here on this episode, this fabulous Tuesday, Zone F. Frank, you and I have one more coming up here, Zone G, which will be in just about 2.5 hours. If you have not already clicked like, if you have not already clicked follow, do that now, because we'd like to keep you around and let you know when those things pop up, because the women in that, the men in that are going to blow your mind. That is a fast one. We have a world champion in that group. Now, we have to give a huge thank you to everyone who helped put this together for us, and that would include all of the sponsors that make this event and all of the future events. You're like, well, what kind of equipment do I need to buy to do this? Well, Ceres, Cyclops, Power Tap, that's your trifecta right there to get everything you need on your bike so that you can come and race and win thousands and thousands of dollars. Garneau outfits these folks. Hunter Allen Peaks coaching group brings it all together with the training and much, much more. But these folks are the ones we absolutely have to have. All right. As we say goodbye, thank you very much. A huge thanks to all of our folks, including our director and producer, Kathy, Frank, my esteemed colleague, Beth York, who's been calling with us today, of course, Casey Shum, and everyone who works behind the scenes. And there are a lot of folks coding and smiling. We'll see you very soon.